Hi, friends. Well, what if I told you that one simple question could change the way you care for yourself, and it might even change your life? This is a question that's so simple that you were probably never taught to ask it. And this isn't because it's not important, but because somewhere along the way we learned that asking this question wasn't really important. We learned that what was important was to take care of everyone else. So if you'd like to know what that question is, if you'd like to hear more about it, stay tuned, because that's what today's class is all about. So this simple question has become one of the most meaningful practices in my life. What do I need right now? It sounds loving and self-caring, but if you're anything like me, and like most women, it probably wasn't a question that you were ever taught to ask yourself. Now, for many years, this question that you asked may have sounded very different. It may have been more like, what do my children need? What does my partner need? What does my work need? And when I look back, what I realize is that question is really all saying the same thing. Those questions are really all saying the same thing. What does the external world need from me? But now, as I enter this stage of life at 66, in the second half of my life, I recognize that I need to be thinking about what I need. What is it that I need? And not placing so much emphasis on what the external world needs from me. Maybe you're in that place too, and that's what we're going to talk about more. How we can figure out what we need and where that need to please and care for everyone else has come from. So for many of us, we were taught to forget about ourselves. Sometimes I call this abandoning ourselves. Many of us were taught that our value came from giving, from being helpful, available, dependable, and even self-sacrificing. And somewhere along the way, caring for ourselves began to feel optional. And sometimes we were made to feel that caring for ourselves was even a selfish thing to do. And that can really mess us up. And so we need to talk about that and figure out how we can change that, especially now in the second half of life. Now, this was true for me for a long time and even well into my adult life. As a child, I grew up with abusive and narcissistic caregivers. And the focus was rather than the focus being on what I needed, it was what they needed. Or maybe it was what they thought I should have. So the focus was on what the caregivers needed, or what the caregivers thought I needed, or what they thought was best for me. But I was never allowed to ask the question of what do I need? What do I want? What do I feel is best for me? Maybe some of you grew up in those same kinds of situations. And maybe you learned that your needs really don't matter. But the reality is that your needs do matter. They are important and they matter because you matter. And so not only did this come from maybe narcissistic caregivers, but as women, we also received some pretty strong messages from society and from our culture. So from an early age, as women, we are praised for being helpful, for being kind, for being accommodated, and for being selfless. You know, we talked about selfish, but we're praised for being selfless. And we're rewarded for sharing, for taking care of other people, for being soothing, helping other people feel better, for anticipating what other people need, for being the fixer, and for sacrificing ourselves. And again, sometimes that means abandoning ourselves in order to take care of other people. And so we get this message that our worth is in being useful. That we get the message that that's where our worth comes from. That's who we should be. Now, this is rarely said out loud. It's a very subtle message, and those can affect us even more than those explicit messages that we get. It just kind of is in the ether. We're sort of marinated in this message that we are important when we are useful, that we are valued when we are useful. And it can be woven into different things, different compliments. So maybe the compliment is, she's always there for everyone else, or she never thinks of herself, or maybe it's, I don't know what I would do without her. Okay? And those can all be kind of traps to keep us in this accommodating mode, to keep us giving ourselves away and doing things for other people because we're getting rewarded for that. And then what happens is that over time, this caregiving, it stops being something that we do, and it actually becomes who we are. It becomes our identity. And then this becomes a vicious cycle. We're rewarded for doing this. We get those compliments, and people like us when we do what they want us to do. And we live up to that societal definition of females, that old definition of girls being sugar and spice and everything nice. And so that can become our identity. But the reality is that identity is only externally focused. It's not internally focused. And we need to flip that around. Now, it's not that we don't ever care for other people. Of course we need to do that. That's okay. But we also need to remember to value and to love and care for ourselves, and to recognize that our worth and our value does not come from what we give to other people, but we are valuable just because we are. And so maybe you've gotten the message, that new identity, that you are the dependable one, you're the responsible one, you're the emotional manager, the glue that holds everyone together. And again, that can be, something that really pulls us in, because it makes us feel good when people say those things about us. But we need to remember, what are we abandoning in ourselves when we take on that identity of being dependable, of being the one that holds everything together, of being the responsible one? What is that costing us? And so then a really damaging part of that identity is that we stop asking for what we need, because not only are we getting that message from the outside, but we are actually internalizing that message that it feels selfish to ask for what we need, or that it's inconvenient, or it's unfamiliar. It doesn't feel comfortable. Pleasing other people feels more comfortable than taking care of ourselves. And sometimes it can actually feel unsafe. And that's true when we've grown up, maybe in trauma, in abusive situations, where saying what we wanted and saying what we needed really wasn't a safe thing to do, that we may be punished or harmed for doing that. So that's a lot of stuff that we need to unpack later in life to really start living the true and authentic life and switching that identity so that we can care for ourselves. Because when we don't do that, there is a high cost that we pay. We pay a high cost physically and emotionally. We can develop burnout. We can become resentful. We may feel quietly invisible, like who we are doesn't matter. It's only what we give out. And so we can feel our true identity can be invisible. And so we may feel invisible, like people don't really know who we are. They just see what we give away, what we give to other people. And that can cause a deep exhaustion that rest alone doesn't fix. Have you ever felt that? You're just exhausted by what's happening in the world. And it doesn't matter how many hours you sleep, you still feel that exhaustion. So it may feel very confusing when we have that identity of giving ourselves away, of caring for other people, because when we try and take that away, it's like, well, who am I now? And it may feel like part of us is disappearing because we've had that identity for so long. But the truth is that you are valuable and you are important and your needs matter. And one way that I have shifted this in my own life, I do this practice, and I'm going to share that in a little bit. But as I've grown older, I have learned, and I tell this to many of my clients, what we need to do is we need to care for other people or care for ourselves as much as we care for other people. So kind of balance that out, give it 50-50, 50% caring for ourselves and 50% caring for other people. Because I bet if you've never thought about this before, if you haven't done it, and like most women, your identity is more about giving and caring for other people, then 50% may feel like a lot. 50% caring for yourself may feel like a lot because it might be more like 80 to 90% that you care for other people and only 10% that you care for yourself. But when we recognize it in that way and realize I can give at least 50% of my caregiving to myself, just doing that can bring in a very healing aspect to caring for and valuing ourselves. And we can also realize that we don't have to make excuses for why we need to rest. We don't have to make excuses to justify giving care to ourselves, self-care. And we don't have to explain to anyone why we matter. We can just do those things. And so when I ask the question, what do I need right now? I can pause and I can ask in certain areas of my life and of my body. So to think about, what does my body need right now? And maybe what do I need emotionally? Or do I need connection? So those are three common ways that we can ask that question. What do I need right now? What does my body need? What do I need emotionally? Or do I need to reach out externally to someone else for help? To reach out not giving, but asking, receiving help and care from other people. That's okay to do too. And so when was the last time that you asked yourself that question? What do I need right now? And you ask that question without feeling like you have to explain it to anyone or justify it to anyone, but really pause and think about that. So now I want to share the practice that goes with this question. And so something that you can do is to maybe set your timer for multiple times a day, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. And when the timer goes off, just pause. Breathe deeply. Put your hand over your heart. Just really pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? And to not think about what's happening in your head, but to really focus on your body, because our body has so much wisdom, has so much to tell us. And so think about, what is your body telling you? What is the message it's conveying to you? What do I need right now? And it may be as simple as a drink of water. It may be as simple as needing to sit down and rest. Maybe, those are things that our body might need. And maybe it is, we need to sit down and journal something some emotion that's happening that we need to process. Or maybe we really need to reach out to a friend. But whatever, and your body may be telling you something different, but to really listen. Whatever your body is telling you, that's what you can do. And to do that without judgment. Don't judge it. Let it come up. And trust that. Honor that. Now, like with any practice, it may not come easily the first time. And you may not be able to fully trust what your body is telling you. You know, you might want to think about, oh, what's the logical thing to do? But with repetition, it will come, and you will be able to trust your body more. And you know, we can do this even in the midst of being very busy with life. If we just pause, you know, and just that act of asking ourselves is healing. Maybe we can't do the thing that we really feel right now, but letting our body know, I want to know what you need, and that's important to me. And I will try and take care of that at some point during the day. Okay? I hope that is helpful, because that's been a really powerful practice for me and for many of my clients. And so here is the truth that I want you to take away from this video today, that you matter, that you are important, and that your needs matter. And you matter. You don't, and without shame, without judgment for whatever those needs are. Listen to your body. Listen to your soul. What is it telling you? What is it telling you that you need today? I give you permission to listen to that, to take it in, because you matter. Now, if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. And if there's someone that you think this video will help, please share it with them. Also, if this practice of what do I need right now resonated with you and you'd like to carry it further, watch this next video somewhere here on the screen. It's a short but very powerful meditation on how we can carry this practice through in our everyday life. All right, thanks so much.